In this modern era, magic and monsters are supposed to be just fiction, but Shizuku draws her blade like she's about to prove everyone wrong. For Natsuki, that fantasy was a 6-year living nightmare. He stands before the massive shadow of demon god Zephos. At 20 years old, Natsuki was a legendary hero in another world. Zephos thinks he's won, but he has no idea who he's dealing with. Shut up, Natsuki roars, bringing his blade down in a final, crushing strike. The demon god crumbles into dust. Natsuki just collapses, tears streaming down his face as he realizes it's finally over. He activates his last bit of magic. He's finally leaving this terrible world and going back to Earth. Back in Mukajima City, everything looks normal. We see a flashback of Mahara Yudo bragging about his new girlfriend to a younger Natsuki. Natsuki is running through the streets, his heart racing. He really made it back. He jumps for joy right in the middle of the street. 6 years of hell are finally behind him. That other world was the absolute worst. No showers, no safety, just constant life or death battles. He realizes his body has reverted to his middle school self. He's not letting anyone steal his youth ever again. He bursts through the front door and sees his mom, Haruko, just finishing the laundry. Haruko is totally confused by her son suddenly crying like his life depended on it. He's just so relieved to see her. Later, Natsuki collapses onto his bed. Modern clothes and a soft mattress feel like the ultimate luxury. Thinking back to sleeping on wooden boards and wearing monster hides, he can't believe he survived 6 years of that. It feels so much like a dream that he decides to test out a tiny crimson flame spell. A massive explosion of fire erupts in his room. He forgot that his magic is still maxed out. A beam of mana shoots straight into the night sky. Natsuki panics as his mom yells from downstairs. He tells her he just dropped some weights while training. She doesn't suspect a thing and tells him dinner's ready. Meanwhile, at the Minazuki residence, a mysterious woman senses the surge of energy. She's convinced a high-ranking demon has appeared. She tells her subordinates to observe the target, but not to engage just yet. The next day at school, the atmosphere feels a bit tense. Shizuku is watching from the shadows. Natsuki is having the time of his life just playing a handheld game. After fighting real dragons, school is a breeze. A classmate asks if he's heard about Yudo's new girlfriend. Natsuki couldn't care less about middle school drama. Suddenly, Shizuku walks into the classroom and asks for a moment of his time. She leads him up to the roof. Natsuki starts wondering if this is actually a confession. He realizes she's just a classmate, but he can tell she's been hiding some serious strength all along. She introduces herself as a member of the Minazuki division. Natsuki tries to act normal, but he's still in another world's headspace. Without another word, she draws her katana and swings it right at his head. Natsuki dodges effortlessly. Shizuku is stunned that a supposed normal student could move like that. She explains the Minazuki family are spiritualists who have protected the world from demons for centuries. She says his power is too dangerous to ignore, and she's going to dispose of him right here. Natsuki thinks she's cute but totally insane. He's done with this nonsense and tries to leave. Shizuku claims she's placed a curse seal on his leg that ordinary power can't undo. She charges in for another strike, but Natsuki isn't even breaking a sweat. The floor around him is shattered, but he's completely untouched. Shizuku looks like she's seeing a ghost. Natsuki just starts laughing. After surviving literal hell, a spiritualist girl is the last thing he expected to deal with. His whole expression shifts. Anyone who tries to ruin his hard-earned peace is going to get crushed. Shizuku gets even more serious, calling him filthy demon scum. She prepares to use her clan's sacred blade, Tsuyuhara. Natsuki is actually curious to see what it can do. He taunts her, telling her to show him what these spiritualists are really made of. She unleashes a full-strength slash, but Natsuki just steps past it like it's nothing. Shizuku realizes she's facing a monster. Shizuku thinks she's got the upper hand until Natsuki summons the legendary Chaos Edge. The look on his face says he's about to end this. A massive shockwave of energy hits her. Shizuku is completely blindsided by the raw power. Natsuki realizes he went a little too hard. He frantically casts healing magic, praying she's still breathing. She's back in one piece, but she's out cold. Natsuki decides it's time to make a run for it before she wakes up and tries to kill him again. As he walks away, he can't help but wonder about these spiritualists. Meanwhile, in a high-tech lab, something big is being monitored. Up on a skyscraper, a woman with literal wings is watching the city. She thinks Earth is becoming more of a fantasy world than the one Natsuki just left. Natsuki is just trying to head home and relax, but he can't shake the feeling that his peaceful life is already over. Suddenly, he's surrounded by police with their guns drawn. They aren't taking any chances with this dangerous middle schooler. Out walks Hisashi Aoyama, the chief of police. He's got that look of someone who's seen way too much weird stuff today. Turns out Aoyama is an old family friend. He's pretty shocked that the dangerous suspect is just his old neighbor's kid. His daughter Jinko brings in some tea to calm everyone down. Natsuki is still trying to figure out why he was arrested in the first place. Aoyama gets straight to the point. He asks if Natsuki has ever heard of the spiritualists. He explains that these guys have been around forever, working with a secret government organization to hunt down demons and rogue power users. The Special Disaster Division is the real deal. Aoyama tells him they got a tip about a high-level threat appearing nearby. He pulls out the evidence, a photo of the massive mana beam Natsuki accidentally shot into the sky last night. The whole city saw it. They've got him pegged as either a demon or an awakened human. Aoyama wants to know exactly what kind of power he's hiding. Natsuki decides to just show them. He summons Chaos Edge right there in the office, and Jinko looks like she's about to faint. He explains the whole summon to another world thing, including how he became a hero and fought actual gods. Aoyama slams the desk. He thinks the kid is just making up some crazy story to get out of trouble. Jinko is absolutely fascinated by the sword, even naming it Magic Sword Tarot. Aoyama is just losing his mind. Aoyama tells him to lay low. If the spiritualists think he's a threat, they won't stop until he's taken out. Natsuki promises he just wants a normal life. Aoyama claims he's just an ordinary guy, but those eyes say otherwise. Over at the Minazuki estate, Shizuku is getting a serious lecture from her mother for picking a fight she couldn't win. Her mother is done with Shizuku's recklessness. She hands the job over to the elder sister, Mio. Mio looks like she's ready to do a lot more than just observe. She's got a real mean streak in her eyes. The next day, Natsuki is walking through the park, just trying to stay awake. He can tell someone is tailing him. Before he can even react, someone slaps a sealing charm right on him. A massive shadowy face looms over him as his magic gets suppressed. It's a total ambush. It's Minazuki Mio. She's Shizuku's older sister, and she's here to settle the score for her family. She's calling this revenge. Natsuki just sighs. He really just wants to go home and nap. He remembers his promise to the chief to stay out of trouble. He's trying his best to be the bigger person here. He tries to talk her down, telling her that fighting is pointless and just leads to more problems. Mio isn't interested in talking. She comes in hot with a flying kick that Natsuki barely dodges. She unleashes the twin dragon strike, but Natsuki is just too fast. He's still trying to keep things civil. Mio prepares her secret Tenjin technique, and the air around her starts to crackle with energy. She lets loose a massive blast, but Natsuki just blows right through the sealing charm and the explosion like it's nothing. When the smoke clears, Natsuki is fine, but Mio's clothes have been shredded by the backdraft. She's finally ready to surrender. Natsuki is genuinely worried if she's hurt, but then he notices her wardrobe malfunction and gets super awkward. Mio admits she just wanted to see what he was really made of. Now she's got a favor to ask. Natsuki uses some restoration magic to fix her clothes. It works, but it leaves her soaking wet, which is just another level of awkward. He tells her he's officially done with all this spiritualist business. He's sticking to his promise of a peaceful life. Mio stops him and hands over a thick envelope. It's a thank you gift from her family, but mostly it's probably hush money. Mio explains that her family wants peace. They've realized that Natsuki is far more powerful than any spiritualist they've ever encountered. She adds that the Minazuki family head, her mother, is particularly interested in his potential. Natsuki just looks confused. Curious about his limits, Mio asks how much of his power he actually used in their scuffle. Natsuki casually admits it was maybe 10 or 20%. Mio is stunned, but as she leaves, she drops a cryptic warning. There's someone else out there that even Natsuki might not be able to defeat. At the Minazuki main residence, Mio reports back to her mother. The matriarch listens from behind a screen, her presence heavy and mysterious. Mio describes Natsuki as a boy who looks completely ordinary, but hides a level of power that defies logic. Deep down, Mio is terrified. She fears that the person she mentioned earlier could actually wipe out the entire Minazuki clan. Back at school, the bell rings, but Natsuki is in his own world. He completely ignores whatever Mio was asking of him because he was too busy thinking about lunch. His day gets even weirder when Mahara Yudo, a classmate, stops him with a fake friendly wave. Yudo puts on a show of being sorry, revealing that he's started dating a girl named Noah that Natsuki used to like. He goes on a trip down memory lane, reminding Natsuki of all the times he took his things, starting all the way back in kindergarten. With a snake-like grin, Yudo begs for forgiveness, though it's clear he's actually just gloating about his latest betrayal. Natsuki isn't even fazed. He tells Yudo it's fine, mostly because he barely remembers anything about their childhood. His mind flashes back to the hell of the other world, betrayal by allies, surviving demon armies, and constant life-or-death struggles. To Natsuki, this high school drama is laughable. Compared to being hunted by literal monsters, Yudo's bullying is almost cute. But then he notices something. A dark, familiar energy is rolling off Yudo. It's mana, and Natsuki wonders how a regular kid on Earth has it. Walking through the city later, Natsuki muses on how the normal world he returned to is becoming less realistic by the second. Suddenly, a middle school girl named Ayakawa runs up to him, calling him Big Brother with a bright, blushing smile. She claims she wants to apologize for how she's treated him in the past, but Natsuki is instantly on guard. He's convinced this is some new kind of elaborate scam. He's seen enough long-lost sibling tricks in the other world to know better. He gives her a cold brush-off, telling her to try her luck with someone else, and walks away without looking back. But An isn't giving up. The next morning, she's right there at the school gates, waiting to fix his bed hair like they've been close for years. By lunchtime, she's presenting him with a handmade bento, scolding him for eating nothing but sweet bread. She even manages to infiltrate his classroom. Natsuki is starting to feel like he's being haunted by a very persistent scammer. Late that night at home, Natsuki finally gets to sleep, but he's still worrying that An is actually after the reward money he earned. He wakes up to find her literally sitting in his room. She greets him like it's the most natural thing in the world. Natsuki loses it, demanding to know how she broke in. She just nonchalantly holds up a spare key. When he threatens to call the police and pulls out an old photo, insisting that they used to live together as family. She explains that their parents had remarried and they really were siblings until things went south. Then she mentions the name that's been haunting Natsuki, Mahara Yudo. She says everything changed because of him. And explains that Yudo did something to her. Ever since she met him, she's been obsessed with him, leading to her family's divorce. Suddenly, Yudo himself appears in the park, greeting them with that same smug, punchable face. And hides behind Natsuki, terrified. She tells Yudo to stay away, blaming him for her family falling apart. Yudo's mask slips. He grabs Natsuki's collar, accusing him of poisoning An's mind because he's jealous of Yudo's success. And tries to pull Yudo off, but the guy is convinced that Natsuki is just a loser who can't handle losing his girl and his sister. Natsuki finally puts the pieces together. Yudo is using Charm, a dangerous mind control spell he's seen used by high-ranking demons. He realizes the spell on An is broken, but Yudo doesn't know that yet. He's still trying to play the victim. And reaches her breaking point and delivers a solid kick to Yudo's gut, shocking both the boys. Fed up with the drama, Natsuki leaves Yudo in An's hands. He's had enough of psychics and weird mind control for 1 week. He just wants his peaceful life back, but a UFO hovering over the city suggests that's not going to happen anytime soon. The next day, Natsuki finds comfort in a simple hamburger. Compared to the salt and gristle diet of the hero life, it's literal heaven. He's determined to enjoy his day off, but as he walks through the mall, the air suddenly feels heavy and wrong. Space itself seems to distort. The strange creature confirms what Natsuki is thinking. He is indeed an extraterrestrial being from a distant planet. Natsuki is having a full-blown existential crisis. He could handle the alternate world and psychic powers, but literal aliens are a bridge too far. He tries to bolt, only to slam into an invisible hexagonal barrier. The alien apologizes, explaining that the area is currently isolated in a separate dimension. Natsuki isn't in the mood for a chat. He powers up, prepared to shatter the dimensional wall and force his way back to his peaceful life. The alien panics, waving his hands and begging Natsuki to listen. He claims he didn't come to fight, but to ask for a desperate favor. He projects a holographic image of another alien named Nancy. She's his fiancée, and they came to Earth together for a pre-wedding vacation. But the trip turned into a nightmare when Nancy was captured by a group of humans, men in suits who appeared to be part of some secret organization. The aliens sensed Natsuki's overwhelming power and realized he was the only one who could get her back. He bows his head, pleading for Natsuki to lend him his strength. For a moment, Natsuki is stunned. He realizes this is exactly like the sci-fi movies he grew up loving, from blockbusters to cheesy B-movies. Overcome with nostalgia and a sense of duty, Natsuki agrees. He points a finger at the alien in a dramatic E.T. gesture and introduces himself. The alien is touched, though his own name is a mouthful, Jack Landok Jasper Williamson Chamber Hanamaki. Natsuki is just glad to have a name to call him. Natsuki hops on his bike with Jack tucked into the front basket. In an absurd display of power, he takes to the skis, pedaling through the air above the city. Jack is a bit cramped in the basket, but Natsuki insists this is the only proper way for an alien to travel. Besides, he's using the air route to avoid making a scene. Following a signal from a device inside Nancy, they arrive at a facility where she is being held by the Unidentified Creature Research Society. Natsuki doesn't bother with the front door. He smashes his bicycle right through the third-floor wall, crashing into the middle of the laboratory. The impact sends the bicycle flying, and it accidentally pins the society's chairman to the ground. Natsuki realizes with a start that it was his mom's bike. The guards rush him, but Natsuki is a blur of motion. He takes them down with ease, declaring that kidnapping an innocent alien is a line no one should cross. He stands tall, his eyes burning with a sci-fi fan's righteous fury. He won't forgive anyone who would disrupt the possibility of intergalactic friendship. With a few more swift strikes, the rest of the researchers are dealt with. Natsuki catches his breath, feeling a little better for taking care of business. Nancy is found strapped to a gurney, her mouth taped shut and tears in her eyes. Jack rushes to her side, relieved that she's still alive. But the rescue isn't over yet. A man with blonde hair and dark sunglasses steps through the smoke, a predatory grin on his face. Jack recoils in fear, identifying the newcomer as the rogue psychic who personally captured Nancy. He warns Natsuki to be extremely careful. Before Natsuki can move, he feels an invisible force tightening around him like a massive, crushing snake. His body becomes heavy and unresponsive. The rogue psychic explains that anyone who makes eye contact with him falls under a paralysis spell, leaving them completely at his mercy. The rogue psychic makes it clear he doesn't care about the crime as long as the paycheck is big enough. But the vibe changes instantly when Yura Natsuki steps in, radiating a level of magic power that completely freezes the guy in his tracks. Natsuki doesn't wait for an explanation and just decks him right in the face. He dispels the guy's technique like it's nothing and tells the alien Jack to take the other one and run while he handles things. Natsuki is actually more pissed about his mom's broken bike than the kidnapping. The psychic starts rambling about aliens being the descendants of gods, but Natsuki is already over it. He lets off a massive blast that lights up the entire room. The building gets a new hole in it, but Natsuki finds the whole fight pretty boring so far. That's when a girl with massive white wings, Lucifer, drops in and starts talking like she's the strongest thing around. Natsuki isn't impressed, he's just annoyed that she ruined his brand new jacket. Lucifer thinks he's interesting and decides she wants to play with him for a bit. She's surprised she didn't even notice him until he actually landed a hit. She formally introduces herself as Lucifer, an angel sent straight from the divine realm. She says she's here to slaughter demons, and she's already pinned Natsuki as her first target. She moves faster than most people could even see, lunging at him with a grin. She lands a punch, but she's surprised when Natsuki actually manages to block it. The force sends him sliding back, but she's not done yet. Lucifer keeps the pressure on, calling him a small fry as she rains down more attacks. She charges up a massive blast and lets it rip, convinced she's already won. She stands over the crater laughing, thinking she might have been a little too harsh on him. Then Natsuki just casually walks out of the smoke, admitting that her speed was actually pretty decent. He's got a tiny scratch, and he notes that it's been a while since anything even slightly hurt him. He asks if she's even human, but she just mocks the idea of being compared to something so insignificant. Natsuki's expression changes as he decides to get a little more serious about this. Lucifer lunges at him again, shouting about him being demon scum. Natsuki dodges her kick with zero effort, making her look slow. She can't believe she's being overwhelmed, especially by someone she thinks is a demon. He slams her right into the ground, leaving her coughing up dust in the middle of a crater. Natsuki tells her she's about 50,000 years too early to be challenging him. He summons the Sword of Eternal Darkness, and the whole atmosphere gets heavy. Outside, Jinko Aoyama and the police arrive to investigate the massive energy emission coming from the building. Jinko complains about her low spiritual power, worried that there's some kind of monster inside that she can't handle. One of the aliens pops up and asks if they're the police, which naturally freaks out Jinko's partner. The alien introduces himself with a ridiculously long name and asks them to protect him and his friend. Another massive explosion shakes the building, making everyone outside realize the fight isn't over. Natsuki looks at the wreckage and starts worrying that he might have gone a little too far with his power. Lucifer is still standing, but she's completely lost her cool now. She's absolutely furious that a mere demon actually managed to wound her. She summons a massive glowing spear, telling him she'll kill him with respect as a reward for wounding her. Natsuki warns her that unleashing that kind of power will blow away everyone in the area. She doesn't care and dives straight for him, screaming for him to die. Natsuki counters her final attack with his own intermediate magic, Black Raging Thunder. The collision is massive, tearing the building apart as their powers clash. Jinko Aoyama and the emergency crews can only watch as the entire structure starts to come down. Natsuki stands in the wreckage, breathing hard after that last exchange. He realizes that his 14-year-old body isn't quite built for the recoil of intermediate magic yet. Lucifer is absolutely livid, screaming about her hatred for the demon race while buried in the rubble. She calls on a complete recovery, glowing with light as she forces her body to heal. Natsuki just stands there unfazed, pointing out that even with the healing, her wings are still charred. She tries to power up again but realizes she's completely drained, and Natsuki finally gets a chance to tell her he's just human. Lucifer refuses to believe it, insisting that no regular human could possess that kind of destructive power. She gets close enough to sniff him and is genuinely baffled when he actually smells like a normal person. She introduces herself properly as Lucifer, the strongest angel, and promises this isn't over. She flies off into the night, leaving Natsuki standing there wondering what just happened as the police move in. Natsuki spots Jinko Aoyama in the crowd and gives her a casual wave. He's glad to see that Jack and Nancy are safe, though they're still in their alien forms. Jinko is shocked that the building is a total loss and tells him the police will handle the criminals. Since the aliens were planning on camping out, Natsuki invites them to crash at his place instead. The aliens aren't worried about causing a scene because they've already finished collecting data on how humans look. They activate a device and instantly transform into a pair of very attractive humans. Natsuki is floored by how perfect their human disguises and speech patterns are. They head back to Natsuki's house, where his mom is waiting with a giant spread of sushi. Everyone digs in, and for a second, things almost feel normal despite the literal aliens at the table. Jinko is there too, completely bewildered by how easily Natsuki makes friends with intergalactic travelers. As they eat, Jinko explains that the police keep a close eye on anyone with spiritual or magical power. She mentions Mahara Yudo, Natsuki's childhood friend, but says he isn't considered a major threat yet. Then she gets serious and warns him to stay far away from the Minazuki family. She says the rumors about what goes on inside their mansion are enough to make even seasoned officers go pale. Meanwhile, at the Minazuki main residence, the higher-ups are already discussing their next move. Minazuki Kaya orders her subordinate Hiragi to make sure Natsuki is brought in for a meeting the next day. The next morning, Jack and the others head out for some sightseeing while Natsuki prepares for his invite. A luxury car pulls up to pick him up, and he can't help but feel that Earth is getting way too fantasy-like. A woman in a black suit introduces herself as Yada Hiragi and invites him to get in. Natsuki is surprised by the formal greeting, but decides to go along with it. He realizes he should have probably found an excuse to skip, but since he already got paid, he feels obligated. Once inside, he's blown away by just how fancy a limousine actually is. They arrive at the Minazuki residence, a massive samurai-style mansion tucked away in the forest. Hiragi leads him through the grounds, and Natsuki asks if she's a psychic too. She stays humble, calling herself just an insignificant underling compared to him. They reach the reception hall, where a group of stern-looking elders are waiting. A woman named Minazuki Kaya greets him, identifying herself as the head of the family. Natsuki takes a seat, feeling the intense glares from the other family members in the room. Kaya surprises him by bowing deeply, apologizing for how rude her family members were during their last encounter. Natsuki tells her it's really fine, admitting that he might have hit back a little too hard himself. Minazuki Kaya notes that young people with power usually become arrogant, but she's impressed that Natsuki seems to have a proper sense of himself. When she asks how he acquired his power, Natsuki gives a ridiculous answer about drinking soy milk every morning, leaving Kaya completely confused. Kaya tells Miyako to watch her tongue as the elders look on with clear disdain for the small child in their presence. Elder Unkai summons a massive, multi-armed spirit with a Hanya mask, declaring that the Minazuki family has no reason to fear someone so insignificant. Kaya tries to calm her down, but Unkai insists they can dispose of Natsuki instantly if he ever becomes more than they can handle. Natsuki is less than impressed by the display, thinking to himself about how annoying this old woman is while Mia watches from the side. Natsuki gets completely distracted by the elder's nose hair sticking out on both sides, making it impossible for him to focus on her threats. The atmosphere turns grim as Kaya mentions the sacrifice regarding Miyako, whose spiritual power makes her the intended candidate. Seiun, the clan advisor, listens as Unkai suggests sacrificing Mio instead, cruelly labeling her a failure with no other path. Unkai remains persistent, but they all acknowledge that they cannot oppose the divine declaration of their land god. Kaya apologizes for the unsightly scene and suggests moving to a different location to continue their talk. She explains that the Minazuki family has long revered a land god named Michai, who rules over the waters and brings prosperity. However, the price of the god absorbing the land's pollution was great, turning the deity into a source of calamities like floods and plagues. Natsuki listens to the story of the maidens being sacrificed, thinking back to his time in the other world when he saved a girl from a dragon. As they reach a secluded bamboo forest, Kaya's expression hardens as she tells Natsuki there is something she must ask of him. She suddenly draws her katana and challenges Natsuki to a spar, her eyes glowing with spiritual intensity. Kaya lunges with incredible speed, her blade whistling through the air as Natsuki narrowly avoids the opening strike. The two of them blur through the forest, Natsuki realizing that Kaya is a highly skilled combatant. Kaya admits that she initially believed he possessed power surpassing the gods, but now he looks like nothing more than an ordinary boy. She presses her attack, insisting on judging his true strength right here and now, while Natsuki gets annoyed that she's actually trying to kill him. Kaya activates a spiritual charm, calling upon a divine command to finish the fight quickly. She summons her Shikigami, a massive fox spirit named Yauko, which towers over the young protagonist. The spirit unleashes a barrage of energy, and Natsuki complains that a 2-on-1 fight is total foul play. Kaya and the fox spirit coordinate their attacks, pushing Natsuki back as he struggles to maintain his defense. Natsuki finds himself staring into the massive jaws of the fox spirit, barely managing to hold back the lethal strike. The beast lets out a pained roar as Natsuki finally retaliates with his own power. Back at the mansion, the elders are still arguing, with Unkai refusing to accept Miyako's sacrifice. Miyako calmly states that she is prepared for her duty as a daughter of the Minazuki family. She coldly tells Mio to stay out of it, admitting that she has never once thought of her as a sister. Miyako believes her mother is overestimating Natsuki, but her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden disturbance. A massive explosion echoes from the bamboo forest, shocking the elders and Miyako alike. Kaya stands in the wreckage of the forest, realizing that her assessment of Natsuki's power was completely mistaken. She orders the fox spirit to return, but it's already being consumed by a pillar of dark energy. The sheer magnitude of Natsuki's counterattack leaves Kaya completely stunned as she watches the spiritual energy dissipate. Natsuki stands among the destruction, annoyed that he missed out on shopping and a movie only to get his clothes dirty. Recognizing his overwhelming strength, Kaya drops to her knees and concedes complete defeat. She begs for forgiveness for her rudeness, realizing he is far beyond anything an ordinary person could stand against. With desperation in her eyes, she asks if Natsuki would be willing to use his power to save the Minazuki family. She reveals the true request. They want him to kill the land god Mizuchi before the sacrifice ritual begins. The story shifts to the following Monday at school, as Natsuki tries to adjust back to his daily life. He notices Miyako is absent and feels a bit uneasy about her fate, though he reminds himself that she did try to kill him. Suddenly, a cheerful boy named Mahara Yudo greets him, but Natsuki is completely confused by the stranger who claims they've met before. Kazuto Mihara, the younger brother of Yudo, chats with Natsuki about their childhood friendship, nodding how much better they get along compared to his troublesome older brother. Kazuto complains about Yudo's recent womanizing behavior, mentioning how he even dumped a senior student named Noah, while Natsuki barely pays attention. Natsuki mentions being asked for a favor by the weird Minazuki family, which leaves Kazuto absolutely stunned that Natsuki knows someone as famous as Miyako. Kazuto describes Miyako as a perfect superhuman, academically elite, and incredibly beautiful, though Natsuki only remembers her as being terrifying. As Kazuto continues to praise Miyako's cool and mysterious nature, Natsuki decides he's had enough of the gossip and tries to head home. Kazuto wants to hang out more, but Natsuki is determined to return to his casual, ordinary daily life, though fate seems to have other plans. Upon arriving home, Natsuki finds Lucifer in his room casually eating curry, having already helped herself to 3 extra helpings. Lucifer insists on a temporary truce, claiming that her wings still haven't fully healed from their last encounter. She reveals that she's been monitoring Natsuki for days and even charmed his mother into treating her to dinner while she gathered intelligence. Lucifer brings up the Minazuki family's request to kill the land god, mentioning that she's also been keeping an eye on the powerful deity. She describes the god Mizuchi as a city-destroying threat, but Natsuki remains indifferent, flatly refusing to get involved in the dangerous task. Natsuki argues that he didn't sense any real danger from the creature, but Lucifer is eager to see a fight to the death and won't take no for an answer. To force his hand, Lucifer pulls out Natsuki's laptop and reveals she's found his weakness, a stash of adult content she's ready to leak. The angel threatens to broadcast his embarrassing browsing history to the entire world, leaving Natsuki horrified by her devilish tactics. As Natsuki deals with his blackmailer, a somber scene unfolds at the Minazuki mansion where Miyako sits alone, consumed by the fear of her upcoming sacrifice. Miyako tries to maintain her resolve as a noble member of her family, but her body won't stop trembling at the thought of her looming death. She is haunted by a vision of being pulled into an eternal darkness, realizing that she is truly terrified of what awaits her after the ritual. Mio enters the room, her serious expression a stark contrast to her usual energetic self. Mio declares that she will save her sister, but Miyako lashes out, telling her not to be ridiculous and insisting she's a failure who should stay out of it. Miyako demands that Mio not do anything unnecessary, still trying to push her away with harsh words and cold stares. Mio ignores the insults and pulls her sister into a comforting hug, telling her that she knows what Miyako is truly feeling deep down. She reaffirms her role as Miyako's big sister, acknowledging that while Miyako has hidden her emotions since childhood, she isn't alone. A memory of their childhood flashes by, showing Mio reaching out to help Miyako after a fall, proving their bond has always been there. Miyako finally breaks down in tears, hugging her sister back as Mio vows that she will never allow her to be sacrificed to the land god.